Hello, everyone, and welcome to ReelQuick episode 83. Today, we just got a two-man show. It's me and Seth, but instead of doing a 5-round draft to make up for it, since we have a lack of other members, George is out in Greece having a blast of a time. Cam is occupied today, so it's just us two. We're going to be doing a draft of the best black and white movies of all time, and of course, you know, with all the memes about Seth being the black and white movie guy, of course, he has to be the one that has to be present for this draft. We're going to be going 10 rounds today, so 20 total picks of black and white movies. Obviously, the pool to choose from is literally endless, like just millions to choose from, so I don't think we'll have any issue getting to 10 rounds whatsoever. This draft's been recommended by Rocco 1.0, so if you want to recommend us drafts, join our Patreon or join our Discord. All kinds of other perks, getting discounts on merch, other cool benefits. Check out our Patreon down below in the description. Tons of cool tiers, stuff for everyone at every different level. Go check that out, and then check out our merch as well on ReelTokPodcast.com. But yeah, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. 10 rounds, best black and white movies of all time, or our favorite black and white movies of all time. I'm going to give the first pick to Seth, and we're going to snake our way through 20 rounds. So Seth, first pick of the black and white movies draft.
You didn't randomize it this week.
Yeah, it was 50-50. I just decided I'll give it to you.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty easy. I think the easy way to go for me is kind of just went on my favorites list. And then, like, I wish there was an option, you know, on Letterboxd to pick black and white.
Right.
So my favorite would be, probably not to the surprise of anyone listening, would be Ingmar Bergman's Persona, being my highest rated black and white, that being in my top 10 of all time. So that's going to be my first pick.
Yeah, after I took that pick from you a couple weeks ago, you had to make sure you locked in Persona, and I didn't add that one from you, so definitely
it'd be crazy to get that.
Yeah,
it'd be crazy.
Strong first pick. So I got back-to-backs now. I'm gonna go for my only 10 out of 10 black and white film, I believe. Yeah, so 12 Angry Men. I mean, it's a classic for a reason. Incredible screenplay, incredible blocking, all the performances are incredible. 12 Angry Men going down. And then next,
why are you getting two picks if it's two of us? I thought we'd just go back and forth, back and forth.
Okay,
back and forth.
yeah, I'm down to do that. I think snake draft really benefits when there is more than two people. With two people, we can just go back and forth. I agree with you. So yeah, we'll just kick it back over to you. Look at us on the fly making changes. So Seth, back to you.
I know, crazy. So my second pick is going to be, again, not to the surprise of anyone. That is going to be Kubrick's Paths of Glory, of course.
Yep.
My all-time favorites.
Yep. Yeah, let's see. I'm gonna go with Psycho, which is like a 9.9 out of 10 for me. So another very highly rated film. Black and white movies are indeed cinema, much to the disagreement of Cam Walsh. Just catching strays. That's what happens if you don't show up for a podcast episode.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're 4 picks in. What's your first pick of the third round, or your only pick of the third round, I guess?
I didn't know you had Psycho at 5-star. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's a 9.9 for me. I really, really enjoy it.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, I'll go. One that I seem to be speaking about quite a lot recently, and that's because I rewatched it again recently. I've watched it twice this year, and that is The Bride of Frankenstein. Probably my favorite Universal monster film. I think that period of kind of Universal films like Dracula, The Wolfman, A Creature from the Black Lagoon, Frankenstein, whatever. I think that's definitely my favorite. And one that's really, like, on that second watch, it went from like a 4 to like a 5 straight away, and like an all-time favorite. I don't know what it was. It's just such an amazing film that I recommend everyone watch. It's really short as well. It's like 70 minutes, something like that.
So you watched it twice this year, but was the first time you watched it your first watch of it?
Yeah, it was. Okay. Yeah. So I watched it in April for the first time. Like when I was going through but I was going through like a really era of just watching old monster films because they're just so enjoyable. I've been doing it recently as well. And then I rewatched it again in June, and I was like, wow, it blew me away on the second watch. It's kind of just one of those that you need to watch multiple times to fully appreciate. But yeah, that'll be my third pick anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Ever since you watched that, you've been talking about it a ton. So I definitely have to check it out because I do also enjoy that era. You know, I'm pretty sure it probably came out same time around of Nosferatu, probably the original King Kong.
about King Kong. I think it was like 10 years after Nosferatu.
Gotcha.
So just after the silent German expressionist era. But I think you'd enjoy it. I think it's really good.
Gotcha.
Really good.
Awesome. Well, my third pick, I will go with Schindler's List. I mean, technically, there's one person that's in color for like 10 minutes of the movie, but I don't think anyone would disagree that that's a black and white film.
No, you don't really disagree with me on that one.
Yep.
I actually forgot about that. I don't know why. I just kind of forget about Schindler's List. I often forget about the more recent films when it comes to black and white. Do you know what I mean? They kind of just like don't lock in as much in my head.
No, yeah, that makes sense. Especially when you're preparing for an all black and white draft, and your mind immediately goes to like, all right, 1965 is like the latest I'll be able to go or so. But yeah, fourth round.
Yeah. I'll go for Bergman, another Bergman with Through a Glass Darkly. I don't know if you've watched that one yet. I don't think you have.
Nope.
I think have you seen? So you've seen Persona, Autumn Sonata,
Wild Strawberries.
Oh yeah, Wild. Have you seen Seven Seal yet as well? Or was that
no? I think I've only seen those three. So is Through a Glass Darkly your second highest Bergman then, or second favorite Bergman?
No, it's my third. The second one is the Christmas Chronicle, Fanny and Alexander he did, which is like you can get a theatrical, you can watch the theatrical version or the TV, the limited series, which is what his recommendation was. But Through a Glass Darkly is my third. Out of like 17, I think I've watched of his now, so it's a massive compliment. It's actually not one that gets spoken about a lot either. It's not one of his like highest rated ones either. But it just really connected with me. Really, really great. So good.
All right, next pick I will go with. See, like those top three were like my clear-cut staple favorites, and then I still have a ton of these that are very highly rated for me, but not like now the gap between them all is very muddied, so I don't know exactly where I want to go next. But I will go with. I'll go with the classic that we watch pretty much every Christmas growing up, and I'm still not really sick of it. It's a Wonderful Life. You know, it's a staple holiday film. Everyone's probably seen it at least once in their life. It's always plays around during Christmas time around here. But yeah, it's a Wonderful Life.
I actually didn't watch it on the last Christmas. I don't know why. It's kind of weird. Amazing film, but I really like it. It's a Wonderful Life. Really, really like it. For my is this fifth pick?
Fifth pick.
Yeah. For my fifth pick, I will go for Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, his huge samurai blockbuster epic. So grand in scope. It's so incredibly entertaining throughout. It's actually, Tyler, not to put pressure on you, but I think it's one away from ReelTok Collection now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I need to get on watching that, and I'm happy at least you'd seen it because in a draft of best black and white films, like it absolutely has to be picked. It's one of the grandest epics of all time, but obviously I'm not going to be picking it because I haven't seen it. But yeah, 5 stars from everyone on ReelTok except me because I haven't seen it yet.
It's I feel like you'll like it. This is coming from someone as well I've only seen 2 Kurosawa films. I've really not gone into filmography at all, but I have a massive feeling you'll like it. It's so much fun. Yeah, great film.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll love it. So Harakiri obviously is a samurai film. There is some scenes of samurai fighting, but a lot of it is based on kind of the drama of it. Yeah, exactly. So is Seven Samurai more of a pure like epic grand battles of samurai?
Not specifically. I think Seven Samurai is one that kind of focuses on the philosophy of the samurai code, similar to what Harakiri does, but in a different way. And it's like, but the action sequences are so big in scope that it's pretty much the blueprint for like the action film, if that makes sense. And it revolutionized so many. Not that there's not an action sequence every 10 minutes or whatever. It's a lot of building up to it. It's a lot of intense dialogue. There's a lot of emotional sequences as well. It's the best thing about Seven Samurai is, from my research, it's so real. It feels so authentic. It's drowning in realism because of how much research was done into the time period and how historically accurate it is. It's almost like you're watching a documentary from that era, which is kind of the best feel. So it is like the blueprint for a modern day action blockbuster. That's kind of the goal to achieve for most of them, I would say.
Yeah, I definitely need to see it. It's just that 3 hours, which we both have watched plenty of 3 hours films, 3.5. Yeah, we both watched many 3 hour films, but it's just it does take a little hurdle to get over to start when you could throw on a 9-minute film.
That's why it took me like 5 years to fucking tick off the watch list. It was literally that long. It's crazy.
Yep. All right, so I have a couple on my list that are like movies that like pretty much at least in like America, everyone had to watch in like elementary school after reading a book about it. But they're great movies. Just because the first exposure to it was when I was in school doesn't mean anything is bad about them. But I'll go To Kill a Mockingbird. A phenomenal book, and then the movie. Yeah, so it's a phenomenal book first of all, and then the movie itself is also quite incredible. And that's like, like when you're in grade school growing up, and you'll like be forced to read a book, and I feel like, I don't know, 60-70% of the ones you have to read are like awful, but then you have like that 30% where you read and you're like, okay, I'm actually like happy that I was assigned this because it's great. To Kill a Mockingbird is one of those where you read and you're like, damn, that's great.
Yeah, we never actually did it in school, but I know a lot of people did. But it's my mom. It's one of her favorite films, and I actually watched the film like fairly recent, past like year and a half. It's really, really good, really good. But I know that it's very much a school classic. Like here is like Of Mice and Men, or Lord of the Flies, or Woman in Black. They were like very much literature classics.
Flowers for Algernon, if you remember that one. That was one we had to read.
No, we didn't do that one. I know exactly what you mean though. But I remember watching like Of Mice and Men over and over and over. It was great. I was so sick of that film. Yeah, that is a good pick. I really like it. For my sixth pick, I will go for a fairly recent watch. The last film I gave a 5-star on first viewing, that was The Ascent. It's a late 70s war film, a Soviet war film that kind of just blew me away. It's some of the best visuals I've ever seen. It really shows the existential kind of reflections and hardships of war, where you're just watching these two soldiers do like daily jobs and hour by hour experiences. It's so breathtaking. It's devastating. And it's really, really hit me. I think it's like actually now in my top 5 war films of all time, maybe even top 4. It's around that marker, and it's quite underseen as well. I don't think it has, like, I think when I checked, it had like 20-30K logs on Letterboxd, so it's very much a low-end one, but it is on like the top, the top fucking 250 on Letterboxd or whatever. But I definitely recommend everyone check that out. It's called The Ascent. Even better, it's a female filmmaker around that time directing a war film, which was pretty unheard of, especially in Eastern Europe.
Incredibly rare.
It's even more impressive.
I think, is that on your Letterboxd favorites right now, or at least it was recently?
I think it is, because my Letterboxd favorites are usually, you just do like recent ones. I'm pretty, it is. Yeah.
Because every time I see that on your Letterboxd favorites, I always think it's a horror movie. I think it's because of The Descent and like the name's so similar. I'm like, oh, The Descent. I'm like, oh, that must be like some classic horror.
And the cover, the actual poster as well.
That too.
It looks creepy as shit, man. Yeah, I'll go with that for my sixth one.
All right, for my 6th pick, I'll bounce back to another thing I watched in school, but not English class. This is history class, and that's Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. That's a classic.
I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, let's see if I can pull him.
Genuinely no idea what that is.
From 1939. It's like a political comedy drama. I remember watching it in like government class in like 8th grade or something.
I do know what that is because I know that obviously Frank Capra, whatever.
Yep.
He did he hosted it. It's a Wonderful Life, and it happened one night or something like that, which I actually need to watch. I've not been into any of his films apart from It's a Wonderful Life. I know he was a massive influence around the kind of late 30s, early 40s period. I need to watch that actually. I do know what you mean now.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
7th round.
7th round. Okay, I'll go for. Shit, man, it's getting kind of hard now because there's a few that I've got like a 4.5 ish, but I'm just gonna double check if I've got any still on my favorites list. I'm assuming that I do. Okay, so I will go for. I'll go for David Lynch's The Elephant Man. One of David Lynch's more kind of emotionally evoking films. It's so sad. It's one of the saddest films I've ever watched in my life, and it's probably one of my favorites from him as well. I think it's like second. I'd really recommend that to everyone. It's like it's a portion of history, which is, I guess, less is spoken about, just in terms of obviously John Merrick's life and that period. And I think it's brutal. It's very, very sad, but it's a very just incredible film. So that'll be my 7th pick.
All right, there's a lot you're picking that I need to watch, but also they've been on my watch list, and like I've been just putting off for too long, so I absolutely need to get on some of these. But next pick I will go with you know what, we'll just get some classic staples on here. We'll go Casablanca. It's like one of those that just like was on VHS growing up that I watched over and over as a kid, even though I did not understand pretty much anything of it when I was that young, but I just always watched it. Yeah.
I haven't seen Casablanca in a while, to be fair. Well, I think I only watched it for the first time maybe like 2 years ago. I like it. I'm not like huge on it, to be honest. I think it's good. I'm not like crazy about it, but I definitely see the influence it has. And I think it kind of people would get annoyed if that wasn't on here. It's one of those sort of films, isn't it? At the end of the day. For my is this eighth or so? This is my eighth, isn't it? For my eighth pick, I'll go for Francois Truffaut's The 400 Blows. I always compare this to Moonlight. This is like the direct comparison I have to it. Moonlight has some shots are clearly influenced by The 400 Blows. It was a dark, realistic coming-of-age film in the 50s. Francois Truffaut's debut. It was set in Paris, so it's got like the Parisian landscape. It's really dark. It's really realistic. It's really gritty. Very similar endings to Moonlight as well. Optimism and freeing energies. And I literally like. I think this is like when people do these videos, and I've done some as well, where it's like if you like this movie, watch this older film, whatever.
Yep.
This is Moonlight. It seriously is. It for me, it's not obviously crazy reminiscent within the narrative, but some of the shots, the themes on show, the dark realistic nature, so similar. And I would recommend it to everyone listening. It's definitely one of my favorite coming of age films ever, no doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I watched that. Let's see, probably a month ago at this point, and yeah, it's incredible. It blew me away, and I can see the parallels too. Like you said, it's not like
I didn't even know you'd watched it. What?
Yeah, I watched it. Let's see.
Oh, you did.
See if I can scroll down my diary how long ago it was, but it was
24th of June. 24th of June.
Okay, so yeah, like 2 months ago. What did I end up giving it? 4.5?
4.5, but a 9.3. So
okay, yeah,
like very
close. Yeah, basically like nearly as high as I'll usually go on like a first watch. So I very much enjoyed it. And yeah, I can see the parallels from Moonlight for sure.
I have no idea how I missed that review of yours.
Yeah, probably just slipped by the goalie.
Yeah, definitely.
This pick for my eighth pick is a very influential book that was turned into a very influential movie from a very influential director, starring a very influential lead actor, and that's The Grapes of Wrath, directed by John Ford, starring Henry Fonda.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's one that for some reason I've been wanting to rewatch recently, but I've just been putting it off because in my mind, for some reason, I thought it was like a 3.5 hour movie, but I just Googled it and it's 2 hours, 9 minutes. So I don't know why in my mind. I think it's because like we watched it in school, in like high school or something, and it just took like 5 class periods and we stretched it out over a week. So my mind was like, this must be the longest movie ever. But no, very good movie. Henry Fonda was one of the most charismatic actors of the early 1900s, and like everyone knows him obviously from 12 Angry Men, but The Grapes of Wrath I think is like equally high caliber. Well, I guess 12 Angry Men is 10 out of 10 for me, so it's not quite that high caliber, but it's a great movie nonetheless.
Yeah, I think John Ford as a director is like one that I don't think I've watched any of his films. That kind of era of American cinema, there's certainly a lot that I miss, especially when it comes to like the Western side of things as well. Westerns are easily my biggest blind spot in cinema ever. For my next pick, I will go for David Lynch's debut, the controversial Eraserhead. I watched it again the other week. Just so fucking good, man. It's really weird. There are a lot of interpretations you can have, but I do think it's one of those films that gets kind of bogged down a lot by being something with no substance that's just weird for the sake of being weird, whereas I completely disagree. I think it's one of the more impressive directorial debuts I've ever seen, especially on rewatch as well. I've watched it sort of 3 or 4 times now. And it's just so fucking weird and it's surreal. And of course, I'm a David Lynch fan as well. But I just think it's completely distinct and unique, which is what I really appreciate. And I think it was like the budget was crazy low on this. I'm sure it was like $15K or something like around that kind of ballpark. I would definitely recommend everyone. It's one of those like you go on your friends, like what they've logged it on Letterboxd, what they rated it. Honestly, it's one of the most divisive films I've seen in regards to my mutuals. But it was, it's very much a Marmite film. You'll either love it or you hate it, and I'm personally very, very high on it. But I'm high on David Lynch. That kind of figures, I guess.
Yeah, I am just disgustingly overdue for diving into David Lynch's filmography. I'm still at 0 films watched. I've just been putting off that beast of a filmography, but it's going to be real soon when I finally crack the seal. And I think I'll kind of want to start with Dune, but we'll see.
Dune. Yeah, that's the only miss me. That's like Alien 3 with Fincher, though. It's like it's not really his fault. It was the studio.
Right.
Debacle. But to be fair, the good thing is with David Lynch, you can finish his filmography very quickly. You know what I mean? I think he's like 8 feature-length films, and then a lot of them are shorts and stuff like that, which are really fucking weird as well. But when you do get into it, you'll find that it's not like a Hitchcock or a Bergman. You can just blitz through them pretty easy. I've still got like 2 to go myself as well.
Okay, good to know. My 9th pick, speaking of directorial debuts, like you were just talking about, and speaking of my last pick, which was just someone who was very influential back in the day, like incredibly influential, call him very influential is an understatement. Orson Welles, Citizen Kane. Feel like that can't go undrafted.
I was worried because I wasn't going to pick it. I was kind of hoping that you would, because people would get very annoyed about it.
I mean, I don't have it rated because the last time I watched it was like probably 2.5, 3 years ago. So it was before I started on Letterboxd, but I don't remember it being my absolute favorite. So it's probably not my top 10, but it's kind of one that I feel like just needs to get picked.
Yeah, I agree. I think influence alone, especially, I mean, that is the film when it comes to influence on cinematography altogether as well. And camera techniques. I like Citizen Kane. I'm not a huge fan of it. This is my 9th or 10th pick.
This is your final pick, number 10. I got all your track for you. So you're number 10.
Final pick. Okay, so my 10th pick is going to be the German anti-war satire, one of my favorite war films of all time. Not German anti-war satire, the anti-war satire. It's definitely not German. That is To Be or Not to Be, came out in 1942. Just one of the most kind of profound, laugh out loud funny, whilst also showcasing gravity of the situation. I think the fact it came out mid-World War II, even more impressive, such a bold and ambitious feat. And it has that, like, I think it's rare that you find comedies around that period that have that timeless feel. Like, they'll make you genuinely laugh out loud throughout the whole runtime. There are sequences in that I just think are hilarious, which is a rarity because comedy doesn't usually track that well for most younger people around this era, especially. But yeah, fantastic film, and I'd really recommend it. It's probably the greatest anti-war satire I've ever seen. One of the best anti-war films I've ever seen as well.
All right, that does it for your draft. When you said anti-war satire, I thought you were going to a Kubrick film, but I didn't think you were that high on Dr. Strangelove. But that's kind of where I thought you were leading into with that.
No, I like Dr. Strangelove. I'm not like, it's quite low down my Kubrick. Right, I guess, but I still like it a lot. So that's not really saying much.
Yeah, that's kind of my experience when I watched it the first time. I was like, I like this. I didn't ever feel like I was like, oh, I love this. It's just everything. I was like, yeah, this is good. This is fine.
Yeah.
My final pick, I'll give a shout out to a more modern black and white film, but it's not The Lighthouse like you might be expecting. It's Come On. No. I know George absolutely loves that movie. I love it as well. Joaquin Phoenix from I think like 3 years ago maybe, but A24 movie, very, very good. Wanted to throw at least one like modern black and white film on there, so I threw on Come On, and I know The Lighthouse is really close. And one thing that like I feel like some people might be saying like I can't believe you guys didn't draft, which I don't know, this is your mindset for it. But Raging Bull, like, so Schindler's List has like the girl in the red coat, but that's so minor. I feel like it's a black and white movie. But Raging Bull really is like kind of like not exactly 50-50, but there's enough color scenes to where like I wouldn't call it like a pure black and white film. So I feel like you would. I feel like you would have picked it though in your top 10 if you would.
No, it's not in my. The way I judged it is I just looked at my top 100 favorites, which obviously I did like a few days ago, last week, or whatever. And it's not on there, so I just picked the 10 on there. So I wouldn't have picked it anyway, but I do feel like it would count as a black and white one. The 2 closest that I would put were Sunset Boulevard, The Lighthouse, and Raging Bull. They were like 3 that were like right on the edge, or Some Like It Hot, which I watched yesterday, which was amazing. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with my picks.
Yeah, well, I'll run through them quick. But yeah, just so I guess for the people listening, I would have absolutely drafted Raging Bull in my top 10. But personally for me, I was just like, I don't fully consider black and white. And then same thing with American History X, but even more so. Because that one's like pretty much exactly 50-50 split of color and black and white. Yeah, I don't consider that black and white film, but obviously that would be in my top 10 as well. So the picks recap. Seth picked Persona, Paths of Glory, Bride of Frankenstein, Through a Glass Darkly, Seven Samurai, The Ascent, The Elephant Man, The 400 Blows, Eraserhead, and To Be or Not to Be. And then I picked 12 Angry Men, Psycho, Schindler's List, It's a Wonderful Life, To Kill a Mockingbird, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Casablanca, The Grapes of Wrath, Citizen Kane, and Come On. So if you're listening to this and you haven't really dived or dove into much black and white cinema, more classic Hollywood or classic cinema in general, here's a list of 20 that we would both recommend highly to go check out. So definitely any of these you could pick from and you'll probably find yourself enjoying it. I guess like Eraserhead is maybe a more controversial one, but in general, this list of 20 we just listed off are all pretty highly regarded films that we both give our seal of approval to. So there's our 20 picks. Just me and Seth bouncing back and forth on the draft. Thank you, Rocco 1.0, for the suggestion. I feel like it was long overdue to do this one. And yeah, let us know who won. We'll probably post something on Twitter or something. I don't even know if George and Cam are doing that anymore, but we'll try to get back on doing that and posting graphics on Twitter. But yeah, thank you for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Follow us on Spotify if you're listening there and rate us 5 stars. And we will see you in the next episode.